Hello, hello. This is Jay High with Couch and Keyboard back at it. Shout out to everyone that interacted with the last video. That was a surprising amount of interaction there, discourse, if you will. And I think I'll keep up the melee. We're waiting for some more tournaments to come up, and I think it's important to look at some cool data that's happened. So if you can't tell, last year there was a pretty consistent top three where it was Zane, Cody, and then HBox narrowly behind. Where Cody was number one for the summer, while Zane was number one for the year, and HBox was solidly above the rest, like Josh Manmoki, Axe, SDJ, J Mook, etc. So it's pretty interesting because we're used to having five gods. I mean, there was like kind of the God Slayer, like Plup Leffen type thing. And then it kind of opened up to where it was more of like a top 7 through 10. 10 was like maybe like 8 or 9 because the number 10 spot didn't feel quite as strong between like Laud, Kadoran. I think maybe Aklo got number 10 one time. But it seemed like it was a little bit not quite as strong. Either way, it seems like there's a solid big three, which after Genesis, up for debate because two of those big three did not win, did not get top eight, while one of them won. So, which they did lose to the winner in losers bracket. So, they could have gotten top eight through a different path, but yeah. So let's get into it. I think it is a pretty interesting set of data. Now, I think it is a bit not controversial, but some people might not agree with when I am basing these wins on. I am doing like as much data as I can find if they ever got a win, pretty much. Now that means different things for different players. HBox, the first ever ranking, he was top 5 and has not even been outside the top 10 like at all for a year-end ranking. Like, yeah, there was 2021 didn't have an official ranking. COVID with 2020 didn't get like there was it was not really official. So I'm going just off of offline. I know that kind of takes away from Zane a little bit, but just to go based off of what we're going off of is for offline. HBox, I know there's retro rank where he's really up there, but I'm just including the main ranks. Been top 10 pretty much for the past 12, 13 years, probably longer, but so a win on HBox is good, pretty much. Zane started competing in like 2014. Started getting some good wins 2016 and 17, then became a solidly top 10 2018 to now. And then Cody, the more recent player, which is still for a while, 2017 cracked the top 100, then got top 50, and then been top 10 since 2019. So a little bit behind Zane, about a year progressively throughout. So I still think it's impressive, not necessarily for beating Cody or Zane when they are, barely top 100, but it shows that you've been entering a long time and you're able to get those wins. So it's a little bit of a luck thing, like if they happen to be in your path. But Zane and Cody were entering a lot in the 2016 through 2019 part of Melee history. So I don't think it's very fraudulent. Obviously, it'd be harder to beat them when they're top 10, let alone top 3. But I still want to give flowers. So, first of all, they've all beaten each other. The first person to beat one of each other and then both was Zane for both. Beat Cody at Smash Valley 5. We just saw Smash Valley, I believe the last dance. That might be the last iteration. In Pennsylvania. And then beat HBox in that really clutch Shine win. Technically, I think it was winner's semis, the first set win, but eventually won the tournament over HBox. Cody was the last to get the last to get a win with beating Zayn at Smash Summit 12 post COVID, and then but also beat HBox in his crazy lose run at Smash Summit 8. HBox being in the middle, narrowly getting second place for the first win, and also getting the second win before Cody got a first win. So big credit to HBox there. But it does look like, in terms of head-to-head records, that it is Zayn and Cody favored, with Zayn having a winning record on both and Cody having a winning record on HBox. Which also, Cody doing pretty well at Smash Summit, Smash and Splash, having a lot of history. You'll see on this list, Smash and Splash had a lot to do with it. Also, shout-outs to Bad Moon Rising 2. I went to that tournament. The power went out, and it was a one-day event. It was a little chaotic, but it was cool. So, shout-outs to there. And then we're going to get into the pre-quarantine players that got wins. Some of these not quite as strong of wins on Zayn and Cody, but still impressive nonetheless. The first one is actually Lucky. I did not expect this. So, got that HBox win at Big House 4. Beat Zayn, I think in like 2016, and then beat in Ohio Regional, beat Cody at Shuffle Battle of the Midwest. Yeah, I think they both, Lucky and Cody both got top 3 at that event, I believe. I think they traded sets, one in winners, one in losers, like they went back and forth. But both got top 3, so credit to them. And then the second player is Plup. Now, Plup was kind of Zayn's first big win, and so you more so probably think of Zayn beating Plup. Plup certainly could have gotten that win, was expected to, but Zayn had the huge upset there. Which, fun fact, the huge upset at Big House caused Plup to play in losers. So we could have seen Zayn versus Cody at a Big House in like 2016, I think. But Plup went straight from Zayn to Cody, which who would have guessed that those would be the 2 best players in the world? Pretty funny there. But then did get the revenge on Zayn at Smash and Splash 3. Plup obviously having a ton of HBox experience in Florida, and I believe beat Cody in 2016 at Big House. M2K being the third player, obviously having a ton of HBox wins. One of the biggest ones was Big House 3. I'm sure got some wins before then at like Genesis 1 or 2 or Pound or something. But yeah. And then beat Zayn in the Marth Ditto at Smash Summit, I believe. I think like winners finals of that Smash Summit. And then beat Cody at Smash and Splash 4. Which, if you're not familiar with Smash and Splash, it's the old iteration of Riptide, pretty much. I think there was like some ownership changes, and they kind of wanted to get past that. But pretty much, it was a water park tournament in the Midwest. So, Midwest actually being a pretty common location for a lot of these. And then, number 4, Pew Pew U. Obviously, having that crazy HBox upset at Apex 2015. Also beat Zayn in a Marth Ditto, and then beat Cody at CEO in 2018. And then a few months after that was Mango. Obviously played a ton against HBox way back in the day. And then played Cody at one point, which Mango had beaten Cody a lot more recently, but also got a win early on. And then finally beat Zayn at GTX after losing several times to Zayn prior throughout that past year. So that GTX, I think it was a Utah event. Pretty important win for Mango to finally get over the hump because Zayn became a problem at that point. And then the 6th player was Axe, who had beaten Zayn, which, Pikachu Marth being decent for Pikachu, especially Axe. And beaten HBox in 2014 at that MLG Anaheim event. And then finally got a Cody win. Just kind of, running into each other at Genesis. I think it was like top 64 or something. And then Leffen had beaten Zayn at one point. I know Zayn had that really big win where like HBox ran onto stage to like congratulate him and stuff. at a Smash and Splash, but then eventually got the run back, and then beat Cody and the Fox Ditto at Smash and Splash 5. So Smash and Splash 3 through 5 had a lot of these interactions here. And then Wizrobe beat Cody at Smash Summit 8. Cody had a really good run. I think this might have been in... I'm trying to think, because I know Leffen was in top 3 with Wizrobe and Axe. Axe and Wizrobe was Grands. I'm trying to think if Wizrobe Cody was losers semis or was it pools. I don't remember. But either way, Cody either lost to Leffen or Wizrobe in loser semis there. I forget. But either way, Wizrobe, tons of HBox sets. Also beat Zane. I remember the one crazy transformation where they had that crazy, like where Wizzy fainted. I think that was... I forget if that was Genesis for 2018 or 19. But that was before then, and then finally got a Cody win. A lot of these being Cody, kind of just because they didn't get the chance to play Cody as much, because he was the latest bloomer of the 3. Then SFAT, other part of the legendary team with Pew Pew, beat at a SoCal like regional-esque type of thing in late 2019. So yeah, a bunch of classic players. Some not entering as much anymore. Some we still see at the top of the game to this day. So pretty interesting. And then we have the post-COVID, which I think it was probably more challenging to do, especially against Zane and Cody. But I think is a different testament to where your more recent wins compared to longevity here with being more of a mainstay. And then we have the first one being post-COVID was actually S2J. Had gotten Zane wins, Cody wins before, but had played HBox a ton and never got a win until Double Down. Which, speaking of Double Down, that's actually the first time that AMSA beat Zane. AMSA and HBox kept going back and forth at Smash Summits. AMSA actually did get Cody wins before Cody started kind of, whipping him into shape. And then at the Vegas tournament, AMSA beat Zane for the first time. I believe Zane actually got the first win on AMSA, which is pretty surprising, considering how lopsided it's been and AMSA favored. Now this tournament for HBox, he did DQ out of losers. There was kind of a sickness, that kind of stuff. So I think it counts for S2J. Very good. But yeah. And then Jmook finally got that HBox win at Shine, beating Cody, which back in 2014, one of their first tournaments, they ran into each other and Jmook won. Losing to Zane at that first Genesis win, but I think beating Zane at the Smash Summit 13 after that. But then finally getting an HBox win after a ton of losses, getting an HBox win at Shine in 2022. And then another one that you can kind of argue was Nunn beating Zane at off-season 2. Had beat HBox at Genesis. It was that crazy spike that, I don't know if it was HBox got locked out of jumping or something. It was really weird. Also, Cody has lost to Falcons in his day. I forget if it was Nunn or S2J with he like the law school for this type of quote. I forget which one that was, but either way, they both got Cody. And then Nunn and Zane were both Golden Guardians at the time, I believe. Nunn beat Zane at off-season 2. Now, off-season was an Optic hosted, or at least the guys from Optic, Hitch, I'm pretty sure. Some people debated that it shouldn't count, but it was a high-level, high prize pool exhibition. I think Zane ended up going Fox against AMSA or something like that. But I think, and I think Salt had also beaten HBox at that event. I don't know. I think it should count. I'm not going to be a one to be oh, you both went mains and tried, but because people decided something, never mind. I think it counts. If you want to take it away from whatever. But and then there's a bit of a break. Not many people doing much after that until Aklo used Link to beat Zane at Let's Make Moves in Miami in November. I think this was the one where he got 6-0'd afterwards, but then beat him at, I forget the tournament where Aklo actually won over Zayn. I don't remember. But that was when the Link finally got some wins against Zayn, because Aklo had beaten Kodorin. I think had beaten some Peaches with the counter pick, especially on FD. But Aklo finally got a set win against Zayn in late 2014. And then Moki, after getting some HBox wins, doing great in the Fox Ditto, had lost to his teammate, now Moist at the time. Moist Moguls, I guess. Finally got that win in pools, Swiss pools, at Full House against Zayn. So that was a huge milestone. And then Nikki beating both. I think it was what it was Zayn, Cody, J Mook, and Josh Man. I think at Don't Park in late 2014, and then had played HBox a few times. I remember they played at Egg Dog, and there was like the crazy like mid set pop off and stuff. But Nikki finally got that win. After HBox had lost to Maelstrom, shoutouts MDVA Fox, Nikki beat him in losers, and finally got a win on HBox. Not very common that an Ice Climbers player has beaten HBox. And so Nikki joined the Pantheon, one of the first Europeans to do it since I think only Leffen and Nikki, I'm pretty sure. If I go back. Yeah. And then the final member, pretty recently, only a few weeks ago, was Sunsei. Beaten Cody at Battle of BC, I think. I'm pretty sure Battle of BC. And then had beaten Zayn at a Mango in Progress. It was like a Thursday night, kind of stacked tournament. Sunsei, I think, beat him in winners and then lost in grands or something like that. Another one where you could be like, oh, it's a local. It was like high production value. They're both going mains, trying their hardest. Like there's some where Zayn is just kind of going, don't test me or drinking or whatever. I think it should count personally. I want to give people credit to getting that win, because I mean most people would lose in that instance. Since they still got the win. If you want to take away from, that's your prerogative. But did get third place at Genesis with beating HBox in winners quarters. Finally getting that win. So big ups to Sunsei there. And for now, that's all. They've all beaten each other, and then we have about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17 plus 3. So 20 players have beaten the top 3 of last year, which is kind of more than expected. Especially Zayn and Cody have been pretty consistent. And HBox, I guess he's been around for longer, so he had more opportunities to get a win. But HBox has been good for so long, so I don't know. I think it's and this excludes online. I'm sure there'd be more players if you included online, but yeah. So now, who is close to getting there? Well, Armada actually never played Cody. Cody credits Armada, and they had friendlies where he's like, dude, Armada's so good. They never played in bracket. Obviously, beating HBox a ton of times, beating Zayn a few times, and then Zayn never got the opportunity to beat Armada. Swedish Delight had a really strong 2017. Cody, being from Tri-State, Swedish had a lot of opportunities to beat him. Beat Zayn a few times. Sheik Marth, it happens. But played HBox, I think it was like, they played in Grands at Bad Moon Rising 2. I remember that. I think they played at like Smash and Splash 3, I think. They had played a few times, and they took some games. They even took a game with Luigi. That's pretty strange. But never got a set win. Swedish, really good resume. Had beaten Armada, beat a bunch of good players. Josh Man, that's the main player that's like active right now that I think could potentially get that final win. Josh Man has never beaten Zayn, another member of the I guess now Shopify Rebellion. but never beaten Zane. Beaten Cody a bunch. Now gotten some HBox wins, but has not gotten that Zane win. And with this potentially being the last year of Josh Mann, I think that he's going to want to have some opportunities there. Laud. I know Laud and HBox have had a huge rivalry with being super slow paced games, and I think Laud has beaten him online, but never offline. Obviously, beaten Zane a ton of times, coming up in MDVA together, and then Laud moved to Tri-State, so had opportunities to beat Cody a bunch, but never beat HBox. Crudo. So Crudo beat Cody at, what's it like, Nightclub VIP? Or was it the Function? One of those New York, like, semi-regional, national type events. Crudo got that crazy Cody win, and then has struggled recently, but did get that win. And then I don't know when the first time he beat HBox, but I know beat HBox at a weekly where like Panda and Wizrobe and Crudo and HBox enter. That's if you don't want to count weeklies, that's whatever. Might have beaten HBox before then. I think it was like a month ago. But another player that could definitely beat Zane. I think Zane has really practiced the Sheik matchup to where it was a problem between J-Mook, Leffen, and Plup. Like, you needed to know the Sheik matchup. And there's still good Sheiks with Crudo, with Spark, with Ben. So you have to, stay on your game. You even have up-and-comers like, Inky, Zanya. Like you have these other Sheiks where you got to stay on your game. Juice Box. But yeah. And then you have Triff, who played HBox in Grands at last year's Genesis, Genesis X2. Had a really big Summit win against Zane and had beaten Cody previously, but never beat HBox. Polish, a Peach that actually has beaten HBox. Wasn't that like the Eastern qualifiers for Smash World Tour, I think. But yeah, and then but has not beaten Zane. Zane has lost to some Sheiks, lost to some Peaches in his day, even Wally. But Polish has not beaten Zane. Now Polish does reside like MDVA, Pennsylvania kind of area, but hasn't beaten Zane. Got that. Was it tipped off win against Cody? I remember it was a big deal. Cody loses to some Peaches sometimes. Also lost to Aura. But Ossify is technically on this list, although both the times that he beat Zane and Cody were sets where secondaries were being played. I think that's a different environment than like Sunsei's win or Crudo's win against HBox. Like, take your pick. I mean, he does have the win next to his name, the loss next to his opponent's name. I think it's different, though. We haven't seen Ossify beat Zane in a full set of Marth Dittos. We haven't seen Ossify beat Cody in a full set of Marth Fox. I would like to see Ossify play those players more. I think Ossify has so much potential to beat all three of these players in like official sets, but it is what it is. Zod 01, which is also Milkman, beat Zane a lot when Zane was up and coming. Also has beaten Cody. Both of these wins were prior, like pre-quarantine, so. But Milkman's been good for a long time, so credit. Same with Hugs. Beat Zane and Cody. I think a lot of Foxes lost to Samus their first time playing. Speaking of, here we have Duck. But, yeah, beat Zane. I think people really perceive Zane to be good, but Marth, Samus, for a while was really tough for the Marth. And Hugs and HBox have been around for a long time, but Hugs has never beaten HBox. I believe beat at Evo 2007, beat Mango's Puff, but I don't think has ever beaten Hungrybox's Puff. Has beat Zane and Cody early on, but has beat HBox. Duck, I said speaking of, but Duck actually hasn't beaten Cody. I think would have had the opportunity earlier on in Cody's career, but it is what it is. Now, surprisingly, Duck has beaten HBox. I think it was like Canada Cup, where like Duck took set 1 and then HBox took, like they were both 3-0s, where Duck 3-0'd HBox and then HBox 3-0'd him right back. Sometimes set 1 of Grands, players don't always try their best. Who knows? I feel like it counts. the same. Also has beaten Zane. But yeah, so the Samuses have gotten 2 out of 3, which we probably won't see much from them. They're both kind of out of the game. But credit where credit is due. Dreffen. I remember there's a video where Zane was saying that Dreffen was one of his most frustrating losses at a regional, to where he just crumbled in grands and missed out on the pot bonus, stuff like that. So, Sheik Marth, it happens. And Dreffen has beaten Cody early on in Cody's career as well. Dreffen has been a long time like mainstay of Melee, but has not beaten H-Box. Sheik Puff can be tough. And then Captain Smuckers. Probably one of the harder names to recognize on this list, but real ones know. The gang in Pennsylvania, the crazy explosive combo game that Captain Smuckers had with his Falcon and Zane, just making him look silly. It was one of Zane's probably toughest losses in terms of like how severe it was. And Captain Smuckers was not that like highly ranked. But also getting up in Tri-State, having some Cody sets, having more opportunities, but never beat H-Box, which fair. That's hard. And then Crush. Shout out. So many people lovingly refer to Crush, having such a interesting personality and play style. Also being, I think Crush was New England, but being in the Northeast, being able to play against Cody, and then also being a slightly ahead of Zane. I think like 2017 was like top 20, I think. But yeah, really solid player. Never beat H-Box though. Didn't quite get a ton of like super top wins, but got a lot of those like second tier wins, were like the top 11 through 20 like type of wins. But yeah, so I think big credit to these players. I think Joshman and Crudo have the most opportunity to join that group. There's also Rat Monster, which I'm sure there's other players that have gotten 2 out of 3. Rat Monster only has 1, but has not played Cody or H-Box offline. At Full House Siege, will probably play at least one of them if I had to guess. And I think that could be really interesting. Yeah, I'm really excited to see. I think a lot of players, it's going to be harder to get because Cody is likely not going to be entering as much. We'll see sponsor situation. If he changes his mind, enter more. Who knows? But if a player doesn't enter, it's hard to beat him. So credit to these players for entering so much. I think that if these players were to be more reclusive and only enter 3 events a year like some people do, it's going to be harder to get those wins. So props to Zane, Cody, and H-Box for helping keep Melee like at the forefront and entering so much, since H-Box for a long time, and Zane and Cody since like 2016. So credit. By no means trying to tear them down, trying to kind of lift up some players that have historically done something that is an achievement. So I plan on doing some of these more like throwback data videos, just kind of curious to see how it goes. Might also do some for Ultimate as well. But yeah, appreciate all the feedback in the last video. If you have anything to add, if I missed a player, or any ideas for something you want me to do next, please leave it either probably in the Reddit thread where I posted, or in the description here. I have a Discord. I haven't really checking that very much, but I do have it. And yeah, appreciate you all watching, and have a good day.